Hello, hello, hello to my party people out there in Radio Land. Welcome to this week's transmission. Let's see. Today's topic is rely on your senses first. Rely on your senses first. So, I know we talk a lot about receiving feedback from the universe and making moves based off of the things that you see and the things that are going on around you, and vice versa, right? I've spoken about advice and following your instincts and your intuition. So this is a little similar to those, but I think it's a little different. It's a little different, right? We're talking about your senses, right? So there's a quote from Harry Truman, I believe, and it says, "If you can't convince them, confuse them." Right? And I don't think it's a brilliant quote. I think it reflects the current society that we live in and the MO of the United States, even to this day, and how it operates. So it's pretty scanned, if you want to be real. It's pretty messed up, but knowing that is how a lot of institutions and a lot of governmental agencies, a lot of cultures in general, leaders function, right? They are functioning based off of this quote, whether they are doing it intentionally or unintentionally. So given that, I think it's important for us as free thinkers to not rely too heavily on external sources for information. So that includes science, right? I love science. I have awards in science. Like, science is my everything. Science and arts equally. However, I do realize that all of the science that I have been taught, almost all of it from books, have come through the lens of U.S. culture, the lens of U.S. culture, contemporary U.S. culture, right? So U.S. culture, which is based upon slave labor and oppression, right? And making sure that certain groups are below other groups, right? Socially, financially, economically, educationally, on every level. So knowing that, as much as I love science and as much as I am aware that there are truths, there go my air quotes, to the scientific field, it's not all based on truth. That's important to know, because most people think of it as a religion. They believe in science religiously, and I don't think that's smart, because we are always evolving and we don't believe the same things today that we did even 50 or 100 years ago. So you got to keep that in mind. But realizing that everything external was first created internally from someone else outside of myself, I realize that science can be manipulated, right? We can make things mean what we want them to mean, right? Just like how they used to say scientifically, they could prove scientifically that blacks were inferior to whites, right? By the amount of bumps on, a black person's head, or, all of this other stuff. Bias IQ tests that were written for suburban white affluent males, things of that nature, stuff that still exists, right? Like standardized tests and stuff like that, right? So it can always be manipulated, right? It comes always through the mouths and minds and from the lens of other people's perceptions of reality, right? So for example, if you look up and you see something that somebody else doesn't see, like you see pink, you see the sky is pink, somebody else sees it as orange, do you then write down in your book that the sky is orange? No, right? If your senses tell you something, then that's what it is. That is your reality. That is your perception of reality. And that's how it works. Even using weather as an example, right? Cold versus not cold. Well, the meteorologist, somebody external to yourself, told you that it was warm outside, right? They said, oh, it's a warm 65 degrees. But for some people, 65 degrees is not warm. It's still cold, right? It's still chilly. So what are you going to go off of? Are you going to go off what the meteorologist said to you, or are you going to go off your own senses, what you know to be true? In order for this to work, you must remain grounded at all times. Otherwise, your senses will be inaccurate completely. So that's why you have situations where people say, well, I followed my instinct. I followed my intuition. I listened to my senses, my body, my mind, my spirit, but somehow it didn't work out right? I was led astray, right? Or that's what they believe to happen. Now, aside from the fact that there are no such things as mistakes, because everything leads you where you need to be eventually anyway, if you are not grounded, you can pollute your waters, right? You can ruin your national navigational system, right? So even if you are using, for example, even with technology, even with navigating, even with no technology, you have to have a reference point, right? What is true north, right? This is the actual north. What am I using? Okay, relative to this location, this is where north is, right? Everything has to have a bearing. It has to be, your compasses have to be properly calibrated, right? Or it's going to give you wrong information, just like with GPS. If the software is not updated, if the reference information is not correct, then it's going to give you inaccurate information. It's the same thing with your own personal compass, right? In your own senses. You have to be grounded within yourself, within who you are, within your own truths, in order to be able to discern what your senses are telling you, and in order for your senses to accurately reflect the truth back onto you, right? As they say, garbage in, garbage out with data. If you're putting in bad stuff, then you're not going to get back accurate information. So that's important to remember. This is also why we are all born with what they say, here's my air quotes again, common sense. That's why common sense is free. That's why everybody has their own internal navigational system, right? Their BS detector, all of that. That's why you don't have to pay for it. That's why that's not something that you have to learn from your parents or your environment. You have your own, because you are meant to listen to it, because there are forces external to yourself who do not have truth in mind, who have no intention on giving you the truth, who want to keep you as far away from truth as possible, right? They want to keep you lost. They want to keep you off your path in every sense of, the word, really, in every sense of it. So again, like the Harry S. Trumans, right, who want you to be confused rather than to walk in the light of the truth, which would make them look bad, right, which will reflect poorly upon them. So they want to keep you from that light because they don't want you to see they don't want their darkness to be illuminated by your light, right? That's why we have common sense. It is meant to be used by each individual, right? And what's the point of having this common sense if you don't use it, right? So the moral of this story, kids, is always rely first on your own senses and then make the decision as to whether or not you want to listen to somebody else, or what other people are telling you is truth, or what other people are telling you is what's going on or what's happening around you. Rely on your own instincts and make sure that you are grounded in who you are first. And then you will never be led astray, because that's how the universe works. And that's all I got to say. Thank you for listening. Have a great week. Love, live, light, laughter. Bye.